Yes.
Yeah, Farhan, regarding the situation in Ain al-Arab, there are allegations that the Turkish authorities are preventing the Kurds from fleeing, also arresting many of those who are seeking refuge. Also, they are allowing the rebels to have hospitalization, not the ISIS group fighters, to have hospitalization in Turkey itself. Uh, how does the United Nations view that?
Well, we don't have first-hand reports on the situations you described. We do have the reports from the UN Refugee Agency, who have been talking about the people who have been fleeing deeper into Turkey, into Iraq, into other parts of Syria, and they have interviewed different people. Regarding Turkey's role, I would like to point out that the Secretary General has always made it clear that he's deeply grateful to the government and people of Turkey for their tremendous hospitality in hosting and supporting what are now 1.6 million refugees from Syria. This is a huge burden on the country, and the generosity of Turkey is deeply appreciated. At the same time, he counts on the government of Turkey to use its great influence over the situation at its own border to prevent the capture of Kobani to ISIL and the almost certain massacre that would ensue.
But did they spot or hear from the refugees that there are some who were arrested, including women and children and fighters and all
Uh,
kinds of people?
I would just refer you to the information received by UNHCR, which has been present at the border area, and it has been taking testimony from people fleeing across the border. They don't have that in their accounts, but they have very detailed accounts, including, as I just pointed out, people who have witnessed beheadings as they were fleeing.
The Turks are being demanding that they want some help with toppling the regime in Syria. How does the United Nations view such a demand? Is are the groups who are fighting in Syria more representative of the people of Syria more than the government itself?
Well, I would just refer you to the very lengthy transcript that was put out of Stefan de Mistura's remarks to the press in Geneva. He did talk about what needs to be done in Syria, and of course, for him, as the special envoy, his objective is to get a diplomatic, negotiated solution to the crisis in Syria, and that is what he continues to work for, and that is what we continue to encourage. Yeah.
Yeah, regarding these attacks which happening from the attacks happening from al-Nusrah front against the Lebanese territories from the Kalamon mountain range. How does the United Nation view that? Some Gulf states are categorizing those rebels or the attackers as revolutionary members, and this is in the media of major media stations. How does the United Nations view that?
I think our criticisms of Jabhat al-Nusra, their actions, and the killings and acts committed by them are on record, and you can see them for yourself. We stand by our criticisms. At the same time, of course, this has been a war where we've criticized all the parties across the spectrum for the sort of violence. What we want is for there to be a peaceful solution to the situation in Syria.
Here we are talking about the Lebanese army, which is facing them, and of course they are still taking about 30 Lebanese soldiers, and they killed three of the hostages so far.
Uh, well,
Are we talking here about rebels or are we talking about terrorists?
it's not my job from this podium to decide this sort of question of terminology. Different people will say different things about them. We have been extremely critical about Jabhat al-Nusra. We've made it very clear that they have committed terrorist attacks. Uh, regarding their role in Lebanon, as you're aware, we are continue to be concerned about the stability of Lebanon, and we have been urging all parties to play a role in ensuring that Lebanon continues to be stable, and will continue to do so.
When you say all parties, do you specifically mean the Lebanese army as well?
I mean all parties that have a relevant role to play in ensuring the stability of Lebanon.
But here the army's duty is to defend. The army's duty is to defend the country, and so if they are countering, they are these people who are attacking should be terrorists.
I'm not actually sure what point you're trying to make. Yeah.
Farhan, going back about this, does the United Nations call for the support of the Lebanese army in this conflict against the intruders?
We repeatedly called from the Secretary General through to Derek Plumley on onwards for the support of the Lebanese government, the Lebanese army, and the Lebanese institutions in their efforts to preserve their country's stability against the face of outside threats. Uh,
By all states, or only specific states? Sorry, this follow-up.
Again, I've said what I've said. I'm not really sure what point you're trying to get.
Is a help by the Syrian army to the Lebanese army welcomed by the United Nations, for example, or by the Turkish army to the Lebanese army?
As you're well aware, there's a series of complex arrangements in the region. I'm not going to comment on all of them. What we're trying to do is make sure that all of the various countries are able to preserve their stability in the face of threats from groups that have been committing mass atrocities. Yes.
Yeah, the Syrian government has called for any state in the region to help with regard to saving Ain al-Arab. Iran has offered to help. How does the United Nations view that?
You've heard what the Secretary General had to say and what Stefan de Mistura had to say, which I've just repeated this morning. I don't really have anything further to add to that. Everyone who has a positive role to play needs to do so.
So
Yes.
including Iran, you mean?